Other than a bobber, hook, line, and sinker, could there be a more basic form of fishing? Well, every angler has cast a crankbait at one time or the other, and it seems so doggone simple. Just fire it out there and wind it back in. But don't let that simplicity deceive you. There's a whole lot more to fishing one of these things than that. Well, there is. If you ever hope to get all there is out of one of them, you've got to learn there's a lot more to them than just firing them out there and reeling them back. All crankbaits can offer a whole bunch of bass if you know how to fish them. Tell you what, let's go see. Anglers that have figured all the applications of crankbaits have keys to success that others don't. And in the next little bit, I'm going to show you some of those keys that will really crank up crankbaits. Like any bait or lure, crankbaits have a time and place. Now, before fishing one, you should consider the conditions and what's called for on a specific day. You do this through a questioning process. What color works best? Should I cast large or small? What about floating, suspending, or sinking models? Just through these simple questions, you'll see there's a whole lot more to successful cranking than the old chunk and wind. But trust me, it goes way deeper than that. Added examples include, should I use realistic looking baits? Should I use a bait that has a tight wiggle or a wobble? Heavy or light weighted lines? What about retrieve speeds? What about diving models or shallow runners? Oh yeah, rattling or silent baits? And what about presentation? There's no doubt about it, answering these questions is tough and maybe confusing, but when you learn the particular characteristics of the lure, you'll also learn when such traits best apply to various conditions. Got him. He got a little crawfish in his mouth. Yes. Nice fish. Easy, buddy. Easy. Little crawfish. Pretty fish. Real dark colored. I got him right there. Where are you going, buddy? Come here. There he's smoking it. Going on down, going on down, going on down. Where are you going? Come on back here. Nice one. Come here. Woo! You got that little crawfish all hung up in your face. Pretty little fat fish. You been eating crawfish? There's a lot of them in that flat, I can tell you that. All crankbaits share nearly a dozen characteristics that must be considered in the selection process. Among these are profile, sound, color, shape, buoyancy, speed, look, action, and depth. Let me tell you, crankbaits work best anytime the water temperature is above 50 degrees, but you can catch them in much colder water by downsizing the bait. Your action and speed can also be a major factor. Now, I've caught bass on shallow running crankbaits in 2 feet of water in 39 to 40 degree temperatures. Come on, baby. Whoa, look here. Come here, babe. Nice fish, too. Come here. Boy, that's a good one. There you go. Look at that big, fat, chunky baby. That big, fat, chunky baby. All right, boy. Something you never want to do. You never want to choose a crankbait just because it's your favorite model or because it's your favorite color. Choose it because it's the best lure for the job. Choose it because it gives you the best chance to catch fish. You have to see it as selecting a tool for the job, or maybe even a golf club for the game. What's going to work best and why? You know, it's a big mistake to just chunk and wind a crankbait and not capitalize on the many benefits of these baits. Your success going the chunk and wind route is going to hinge largely on the fish's behavior on a particular day. Well, you know, you and I know fish aren't always aggressive. Most often, they're very selective, and we have to give them what they want. So, for this show, I decided to use Rebel's D76 2 3/8 inch wee crawfish in their nest robber color. Oh, you big. I'll get off. Go on again, look at him. Hey, crawfish eating baby right there. That's why he's so fat. Again, the reason for crankbaits, we have lots of options. We can make the bait work for us by creating erratic actions, stop and go, that little glide motion I was telling you about, or even fine-tuning the make and model. You know, crankbaits require the same awareness and concentration as used while fishing jigs and plastic, or even plastic worms or spinnerbaits as far as that goes. The presentation, it's so important. It's also important that you be totally focused from the time the lure leaves your rod tip until it gets back to the tip. This will not only allow you to detect more strikes, but it'll also help you decipher any needed adjustments. I'm running it down, then I'm just kind of stopping it and I'm pulling it a little bit like that. And what a crawfish does, he'll run down and he'll glide like that. If I stop it, it'll kind of float up because this is a floater. Coming right at the boat. Whoa, look at that fish right there. Whoa! Woo-wee! Boy, I don't like what you're doing. Easy now, easy. Got that big nest robber right in your face. Boy, you know, here's something we've mentioned before, but it's worth mentioning again. You know, when you present your lure, you want to present it at a variety of angles. Most fishermen just work down the bank or a ledge without working multiple casts from different angles. They never change the angle of their retrieve. So it's very important to do that. You got to consider that the strike zone can be so limited on certain days, and if the bait doesn't come along at the right angle, fish are just not going to hit it. You can make repeated casts at the same spot, but it will not get bit. But then you can slightly change the direction of your lure and it'll produce many fish for you. Yep, and I've seen this happen a bunch of times. Again, lure selection is critical. Don't choose it because it looks good. Choose a crankbait because it gives you the presentation. Also, toss a bait a few times before switching to another. If the lure is worth tying on, it's worth a fair shot. Give it a fair chance. Now, you have to know there's no one miracle crankbait out there that's going to clobber the bass every time you cast it. But you can book it and take it to the bank every day. Well, except holidays, that every day there's a certain combination of crankbait qualities that'll outperform all others that particular day. All you have to do is find it. Let me tell you, action is the mother of all lures, and how fish perceive your presentation is one of those keys that I mentioned earlier. It goes back to questions. Do you need it to wobble wide, or do you need fast, tight wiggles? The answers to such questions come from time on the water and how the fish respond. For example, many shad baits tend to have tight wiggles, and knowledge such as this can allow you to make a selection. Of course, various models of crankbaits allow anglers to achieve various depths, but you got to remember that you always want a bait to run just above the fish in order to get bit. Now, people that have fish below the fish get fewer strikes, if any. Likewise, you want a crankbait to run just above the top of the cover. You know, I like it when it occasionally bumps the cover or reflects off of it. Now, like today, I'm just skimming the top of this vegetation. I don't want it to plow down in it because I'm grabbing all of it on the lip of the bait. And these crawfish are just laying right up on top of it. You also want your crankbait to stay in the strike zone for longer periods of time. You target a specific depth and try to keep your crankbait there. Typically, you want your bait to go to its maximum depth, so don't burn them. Slow to medium retrieves are what's needed to achieve the ideal depth. Reels with lower gear ratios will help you maintain this when fishing deep diving crankbaits. You know, as far as size, I've never believed in the old theory, match the hatch. You know, if there's 1,000 3-inch shad out there, why would I want to throw another 3-inch lure into the mix? I prefer to throw something that's going to stand out bigger or smaller. Whatever I can do to throw something, give them something that's different. No, it's not always bigger is better. I just think one of the biggest mistakes is not throwing a lure that's large enough. Shape, profile, and body thickness creates a better image in the water. It dispels water, and this can be critical when visibility is reduced. Predators use their lateral line to detect the pressure waves, and the delicate action of a larger crankbait can make it easier to locate. As far as crankbait colors, remember the general rule is bluebird clear days calls for natural patterns. In low visibility water, use crankbaits with dark bait finishes. As they say, in fishing dark waters, use dark baits. I hear this a lot. Do you think flashy crankbaits, the chrome colored baits, you think they do good? Well, flash can be good when vision is poor, but on bright clear days like we got today, I think flashy baits do more harm than good when it comes to attracting bass. Okay, what about sound? Well, any crankbait is going to create some vibration as it moves through the water. It displaces water molecules. That enough can attract bass. But baits with sound chambers will create sound with even the slightest twitch. I like to use rattling crankbaits in stain water, but that's just something else that you'll have to experiment with. You got to experiment with different things and find out what works at that particular time in that particular situation. And finally, there are the baits that sink, float, and suspend. Naturally, the buoyancy of the bait is going to influence its running depth. Suspended baits are certainly good when it's cold and when bass are super inactive, because you can keep them in the zone, work it slow, and stop it, then start it up, and bounce them off cover. And then there are times when the diving floater crankbaits works exceptionally well. Bass sometimes prefer that. All these choices are something you have to experiment with. Look at that big horse right there. Woo, look at that. Just fell out. Woo. Woo. Nice. Boy, 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 boy. You don't think he's been eating? Woo! As I said earlier, crankbaits are one of the ultimate multitasking tools when it comes to bass fishing. Tell you what you need to do. You need to take advantage of the many options, and you can fine-tune your game plan to pick the bait that works best for you on any given day. See you next time, and until then, crank one up for me.